Oh. Potato, 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 potato. I did it. Did we do it? Are we streaming? We're streaming. Oh, man. What a day. What a day. It was a protest day today. Went out to Yonge and Dundas Square. Shut the place down. Oh. With Isabella Gamk, who is with an organization she started called POOF, Protecting ODSP, OW Funding. And of course, Barry, regular guest, friend of the show, the Federal Secretary of Socialist Action, along with Daniel and a smattering of other people. Big shout outs to all of them, honestly. Wonderful people showing up to the protest, shutting down Yonge and Dundas. My favorite is the cops every single time we do it. Every single time the cops tell us that we can't. Every single time the cops tell us that it's against the law. It's not against the law. You can shut down a street in protest. You have the right to peaceable assembly. You have the right to protest, right? They do not have the right to abandon us silently. It's very straightforward. They don't have the right to abandon us silently. And all these guys want us to do is just shut up and die quietly. We're not going to. Ooh. So, of course, show starts an hour late. Show starts an hour late because the protest ends at 5. Takes me about an hour to get home. Oh. Well, it takes me longer, obviously, to get home because I've got to clean up and help Isabella tear everything down, all that kind of stuff. But it was a really good one today. I think we gathered a lot of support and a lot of interest, a lot of people coming up to us, a lot of new people like talking about it, right? Able to spread around who we are and what we're doing and telling people. And more, there's more and more people they're starting to see the writing on the wall, right? Like, what I am really, really looking forward to, guys, I got to tell you, I'm super, super looking forward to it. Dan Boxes yesterday. Thanks, Matthias. Yeah, dude, it was a really good it was really good. The only thing we needed is more people. That's it. Like, we're getting this down to a science. We're getting this down to a science. Like, we know how to do it. We know what to do. We know what pieces to put in place, right? We're starting to think about layering things onto it, but the only thing we need is people at this point, right? But we had a good showing today. Good 15 people came today. And there's 15 people. And what's really great is I think that people are starting to trust me more as a speaker. They're starting to see that I can take the mic and I can hold down the fort really well. Thanks, Tinker. Yeah, I hope everything's good with you guys too. So really, really, and it's honestly, it's an experience. I dread the experience every time on the lead up because you don't know what's going to happen, right? Like the cops can turn on us. At any moment, the cops can turn on us. It doesn't matter that what we're doing is legal, right? Like, I stopped traffic, and I'm directing traffic, right? Bike cop comes up to me. He says, like, hey, you guys don't have the right to do this. And, like, I was like, yes, we do. Like, we have the right to do this. Like, we have the legal right to shut this street down. This is a peaceful protest. This is a legal protest. And the whole time he's like, no, it's not. No, it's not. And I'm just like, the cops don't know the laws, right? The cops don't know the laws. If it's not legal to shut down a street in protest, then why is Aaron O'Toole trying to make it illegal? Why is Aaron O'Toole trying to change the criminal code to make it illegal? Right? Like, if it's not already legal, then why even bring legislation in order to make it illegal? Oh, the cops don't know the laws. This is why I keep saying on this channel over and over and over and over and over and over again, and I'm going to keep saying it until this beard goes completely white, until they finally got to put me in the ground. Stop asking these guys for permission. They don't know the rules, right? They don't know the laws. They don't know what the law is. Force them to do the work to stop you. That's what it comes down to. And always insist you have the right. Always insist you have the ability. Always insist, because you do. Most of the time, it's the truth. And honestly, if all of us start operating this way, just stop asking them for permission. They're frauds anyway, right? Stop asking them permission. And if you stop asking them permission, And if all of us do it, and it forces all of them to try and stop us, then it'll shut the system down. That we will grind the machine to a halt with our bones. That's the way it's going to go. And I will be sitting here reporting on the martyrs. Because they will martyr people. They won't be able to help themselves. Hey, Harry, how you doing? Good to see you, Ruth. Haven't seen you in a long time, Ruth. Good to see you. Oh, my God. I was thinking about you the other day, Ruth. Hope you're well. Hope you're doing okay. Major, I was watching every music genre explained and Black Hole Sun played at the time your show usually starts. The universe aligns itself, doesn't it? I am really looking forward. I'm really looking forward to the National Post is on the 18th going to start publishing what they are calling the Capitalist Manifesto. Boy, am I looking forward to it. Oh, I can't even begin to tell you how much I'm looking forward to it. Because they're not going to be able to help themselves. They are going to look like complete cowards and psychopaths. And I am so looking forward to it. I'm so looking forward to it, man. Like, the system that they defend is indefensible. There is no defense for it. Like, there isn't even oh, that's an interesting perspective. It doesn't exist. Right? These people are illiterate psychopaths. They don't even know their own laws. They don't even train their own police officers. Like, that it really is to the point now where just do what you want. If there's something inside of you that you've always wanted to pursue and you've always wanted to do it, but you're worried, oh, does this check a box or does this do a kind of a thing? Just do it. Don't ask permission. Just do it. My turtle died. Oh, of course it would hit you hard. Oh, 26 years. Oh, Ruth. Oh, that's so sad to hear, Ruth. Oh my goodness, 26 years is a long time. What kind of turtle was he? Or it? Or they, I guess. Oh my goodness, what kind of turtle? How big a fella? Oh no. Oh, Ruth, I'm so sad to hear that. That's like a lifelong friend. That's a lifelong friend. Oh, and turtles have such beautiful spirits. They're such beautiful spirits. They're really like, people really like, one of the great things that is starting to happen in some of the like UK and all this kind of stuff is they're starting to declare certain species as actually sentient, right? Like octopi across Europe now are considered sentient. That we're starting to realize as a people that there are other creatures that are as intelligent as we are. And you just spend any amount of time, like my little guy here, my little pug here, right? You spend any amount of time with them and you really realize, like, they got their own life and they got their own expression and they've got their own way of being. And you can tell when they're upset and you can tell when they're content and you can tell they're as valid as, their existence is as valid as ours. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Ruth. My heart goes out to you. My heart goes out to you. Oh. I've always thought, like, maybe I'll get a turtle. Like, I've thought about that, about getting a turtle. And it's the time commitment. 26 years is a long time. It's the time commitment. And, like, needing the aquarium and needing the space and all that kind of stuff. But now I can see how, yeah, the room is very empty. I can see how that would be the case, Ruth. Oh, well. Good luck to you on that, Ruth. Oh, my God. So, moving on to other news. OECD predicts Canada will be the worst performing advanced economy over the next decade and the 3 decades after that. So I'm going to read this one aloud so you can see the language that they use. But the reality is like an economy is made up of people, right? People are the economy. The reason why the Dow and the S&P is on this steady, constant like that is because the population grows. right? It's very simple. If the population declined, the S&P would decline, right? Like it is mainly a measure of like human stock, of human capital. And if you take a section of your society and you impoverish it, right? You give it no money. You make sure that they can't actually participate in the economy meaningfully. And then you guarantee that they aren't able to sell themselves into the labor force because the wage you're paying doesn't actually get them rent or any of this. You're doing pretty massive damage to your economy, right? You're putting blood clots in the system that simply don't need to be there. Because for some reason we think that the pool of wealth that is kept by the capitalists is the economy, when the reality is that the economy is the people. If you don't have people, you don't have an economy, right? Very, very straightforward. Like it's a truism of economics that oddly doesn't get stated by economists ever, right? You need people or you don't have an economy. The better off the people are, the stronger your economy is. These are truisms. These are economic truisms, right? That's the reason why what we are doing is not economics, right? Elon Musk needs to be reminded of that. I mean, Elon Musk is essentially just a full-grown child, right? Like he just has never really grown up. His massive daddy issues, he's never gotten through them, right? Like it's the reason why he goes after what did he say recently? Do I have it here? He recently went after what's her name? Oh my god, I'm totally blanking. Oh, this is horrible. I'm the greatest at this. I know, I've got so many goddamn things open, you guys. It's so fucking ridiculous. Anyway, he goes after what's her name? The woman who Buffett. Warren, Elizabeth Warren, right? Calls her a Karen, like all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, dude, like you're an old guy now, right? Like, stupid haircut aside, like you're an old dude. Like, walking around being like, oh, Karen, right? Like a fucking teenager, right? And she's like a senator, dude. Like, pay your taxes. Like, pay your taxes. Like, it's real. No, the thing that's affecting his brain is his daddy issues. That's it. Like he's got major like Batman level daddy issues. Like that's what's going on with him. Like I don't know how you get with a lady like Grimes and fuck that up. Like Grimes is pretty all right, dude. You're doing all right if you're hanging out with Grimes, I think. Okay. I'm going to read this and we're going to like really rip this apart because this is actually really useful. So today's cast is going to be about the useful things to look for in media. That's going to be the theme, the like tagline, right? The useful things. When you are looking through your own media, right? Look for things. Everything in our society, it's like the Tower of Babel. It's like everybody's speaking a different language. Right? The Christians are speaking a different language. They're speaking their own language that needs to be interpreted and deciphered. Right? The economists are speaking their own language, which needs to be interpreted and deciphered. Right? The universities, the secularists are speaking their own language, and then there's the common language. And all of these people, and oftentimes they can agree with one another, and they just get caught in semantics. It happens all of the time. All of the time. In the case of modern economics, that obfuscation is done on purpose in order to pretend like simple things are complex. That's really the hallmark of modern economics. That simple things must be made complex to pretend as though when people say, I don't really understand it or this doesn't make any sense, you can be like, oh, it's too complex for you. When in reality, you are simply making it complex in order to obfuscate things that are simple. That's a hallmark of modern economics. Most economists, especially neoliberal economists, use this obfuscation. And when we start getting into the Capitalist Manifesto, I almost guarantee that you're going to see an economist use this obfuscation, right? That they are going to do, like, when they did Cotton is King, like when the evil bastards did Cotton is King, and were defending slavery, there were economists And they were using this obfuscation language in order to pretend as though what they were doing was legitimate just because they're making a ton of money, right? And, like, you actually think to yourself, like, yeah, you're making a ton of money, but, like, what about the slaves? Well, they're not really people, are they? So, moving on. Ottawa's economic growth strategy rests on 4 shaky pillars. Accommodative monetary policy to support interest-sensitive sectors of the economy, like credit, housing investment, and durable goods consumption. Let's break this down. Accommodative monetary policy. Give free money, right, to businesses who give out credit, who buy housing, and durable goods consumption, literally just like buy shit, right? Or create markets, right? And the reason why they call it accommodative monetary policy is because it's a bit gauche to say just give free money to billionaires, right? Point 1, give free money to worthless enterprises like creditors, house investors, durable goods consumption, people making garbage, right? Like, that's the reason why it's shaky. Give free money to idiots and losers who waste it. Like, honestly, giving free money to, like, creditors is like giving free money to a scalper. Like, what do you think he's going to do with it? Expansive fiscal policy, as if our government actually has an expansive fiscal policy, but okay. Guided by short-term guardrails and lacking a long-term fiscal anchor. So all of that right there, right? Expansive fiscal policy guided by short-term guardrails and lacking a long-term fiscal anchor. Having no plan. So, point 1, give free money to losers. Point 2, have no plan. That's what they're saying. An expansive fiscal policy lacking a long-term fiscal anchor is outright saying your expansive fiscal policy, your large, big fiscal policy, is having no plan. Lacking a long-term fiscal anchor. Lacking, diminishing, right, a long-term, over time, fiscal anchor. You have no plan. You just give free money to losers, and you have no fucking plan. So we're only on point 2. Record immigration levels to expand the labor supply. That one's fairly straightforward, right? And I've talked about it before. Slavery, right? Just create a second-class citizenry to undercut the workforce, destroy any potential for actual stability amongst the labor force, which is actually part of their strategy, and just get slaves in. That's the temporary foreign worker program. It's the slave program. That's the point. So, point 1, give money to losers. Point 2, have no plan whatsoever. Point 3, just get a lot of slaves. Just get as many slaves in here as you can. Jam it with slaves. I'm sure it'll work. And they throw this in here, and it's odd, honestly, that they throw this in here because it is irrelevant. So point 4 is just kind of like, I guess this is happening. And a national child care policy to marginally raise GDP through slightly higher labor force participation, right? So a straight admission that the point of the national child care policy is not to reduce poverty and to make life better for anybody. It's to get more people into the labor force. But even this is saying slightly, marginally. So, going through the 4 points of the 4 shaky pillars. Give money to losers, right? Have no plan. Get as many slaves as possible. And honestly, point 4 is just get more slaves. It's just that the difference between immigration and childcare policy, right? The difference is literally brown people and white people. That's the difference. Okay? And they feel the need to create that delineated line instead of outright stating that your whole strategy is based on get as many slaves into the system as possible. Like, I can't imagine why this isn't working. I can't imagine why this isn't working. The political class And remember, this is coming from the Business Council of British Columbia, right? This is the OECD, right? Which, oh my God, why am I blanking on what does the OECD stand for? I'm a good journalist. I know what I'm doing. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Yeah, right. I did it. I am an intelligent person. Okay. The political class appears to have lost interest in efforts to raise workers' productivity and real wage growth through higher business investment per worker, giving them better wages, faster innovation adoption, i.e. improving working conditions for workers, and getting the average company to operate at scale. Which, this last one is a bit weird, right? Which is saying, like, getting the average company to become Amazon, essentially. That's what operate at scale means. That you start, if you got like your little dippity-doo shop, right? Well, if you want to operate it at scale, it means you're national. It means you're going national. You're becoming a big conglomerate corporation. The reason why the average company can no longer operate at scale is because the capitalist system has become monopolized. It's monopolized completely. You can't start a shop to distribute goods because Amazon exists, right? If you live in monopoly capitalism and your political class is fine with it and not interested in stopping monopoly capitalism from occurring, then you can go get fucked. Like, right? You can just go get fucked. Very simply. So, we should really go through this and reinterpret what these guys are saying into common language. Give money to losers. Just scalpers and creditors and just the worst possible people you can give money to in the society for no reason whatsoever. So that they can just offshore it and pretend like they're participating in the economy. So, 1. 2, no plan whatsoever. Literally make no plan, create no goals, have no vision, have no objectives whatsoever. Point 2. 3 and 4, increase the slave supply. This is the basis, according to the OECD, of the Canadian economy. Can't imagine why we're not growing. Can't imagine why things are failing around here. Then they say, straight up, I'm going to reread this because it's as scathing as it can, and I'll just reinterpret it. The political class appears to have lost interest in efforts to raise workers' productivity, right, and real wage growth through higher business investment, raising their wages, just fucking raising their wages, faster innovation adoption, improving their quality of life, and getting the average company to operate at scale, i.e. saying fuck you to the monopolists. Was Canada able to grow real incomes over 2007 to 2020? A recent OECD report shows the extent to which Canada's efforts to stimulate demand for interest-sensitive sectors of the economy and boost labor supply growth helped to raise real per capita GDP growth over 2007-2020. As discussed in our previous blog, the short answer is Ottawa's policies did not help a whole lot. So for 13 years, these guys have done fuck all. Fuck all. They've done 0% of anything for 13 years. Why are we voting for them? Get these guys gone. Canada's real GDP per capita grew by 0.8 per annum. Ooh. Over 2007-2020. Ranking us in the third quartile among advanced countries. In other words, we were towards the back of the pack, but not at the very bottom. That's about to change, and not for the better. Other countries are predicted to move ahead of us in making their economies more productive, while Canada's economy stagnates because we don't have an economy. We're literally just making garbage for one another and trading houses. And the reason why the economy is going to stagnate is because we're not even trading the houses anymore. The houses are too expensive now. Nobody can actually do it. What's up, buddy? Do you want to come up? 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 No? You just want to sniff about? What a good boy. Milo's going to be extra needy today because I was gone all day. Yeah, all the gains of the past 20 years have only went to the top 10%. Exactly, Jared. Like, it doesn't take a genius to figure this out. And yet, like, it's important that we actually decipher shit. It's important that we actually see what the ruling class and what the media class is actually saying out loud and admitting. Because we know, as, like, the common people who are experiencing it, we understand what's happening. It doesn't take a genius to figure it out, right? My whole life has been explaining to the upper classes what is happening. That's my whole life. And my whole life has been watching the upper class capitulate because it becomes too obvious. Because it becomes too obvious. The people at the top of this thing are clueless, illiterate psychopaths. They do not understand what's going on, and they are completely incentivized to not know what's going on. Their religious ideology has led them to believe that if I get all the money, everything will be fine. And why wouldn't they believe that? Why shouldn't they believe that? Right? Get rid of these fucking idiots. Get rid of these losers. Canada's will be the worst performing advanced economy over 2020 to 2030. No shit. You mean if we abandon the citizenry, say fuck you to literally 70% of the population, tell them to go get fucked, do absolutely nothing about the monopoly capitalists, do absolutely nothing about the monopolization of our housing market, it's gonna cause a problem? Boo. I saw Xena on Katie Halper's show and she was calling them psychopaths too. Good. Everyone should call them psychopaths. They are psychopaths. Do you understand? Like, it's not hyperbolic. It is not hyperbolic. All of the evidence we have on the subject of what the accumulation of wealth does to a person shows us that they become psychopaths. If you are a billionaire, you are a psychopath by definition. You can't not be. You must be. It must be the case. It is a definitional status truism. More people have to call these people psychopaths, right? It has to become commonplace. Because the idea that we're supposed to venerate and worship these fucking psychos is gross. It's the grossest thing our society does to these guys. Like, these Elon Musk simps, these guys walking around simping for Elon Musk, I'm just like, Jesus Christ. Like, I think some of these guys would literally watch, like, Elon Musk stab their mother in the face with a knife, and they would just be like, haha, Elon, at it again. Okay. The same OECD report offers insights on whether Canadians can look forward to meaningful gains on average living standards in the decades to come. The findings are sobering. The OECD predicts Canada can, at best, achieve real per capita GDP growth of only 0.7% per annum, over 2020 to 2030. This places us dead last amongst advanced economies, which I gotta tell you, the more and more I think I read up on this and more I look at all this kind of stuff, advanced economies is a real racist term. Like, it's super racist. It's a real clean way for them to just be like, oh yeah, our economy is super, we're the advanced economy. Yeah, ignore the fact that we stole all this wealth and enslaved a population in order to get it. We're advanced, right? Advanced. Certainly not, like, barbarous. Like, look at this fucking chart, guys. Like, this is brutal, right? So we're gonna be behind, like, Italy, the United Kingdom, and, like, think about this. The UK literally just declared their independence from the EU. They're straight up just like, we're gonna go it alone, and they're gonna perform better than us. Canada. Yikes. Norway, Germany, and like, oh, who are the countries who are performing poorly? Oh, it's the countries who are still connecting to America. Look, the countries who are connected to America and who are staying connected to America are the ones who are fucking at the bottom. Why? Because the ship is sinking. What do you fucking think? Speaking of America, where is fucking America? Well, the United States, way over here. Way over here. Yeah, we'll see about that, Chappie. We'll see about that. But look at this. Like, Greece, Chile, Slovenia, Portugal, Colombia, Slovakia, Korea. Which Korea? They don't say. Racism. Czech Republic, Ireland, Costa Rica, Poland, Hungary, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Turkey, you guys. Turkey. And what do all these countries have in common with one another? What do all these countries in the first quartile all have with one another? Oh, they're the ones who are trading with China. Oh, shit. Incidentally, where is China on this list? Where is China on this list? Oh, where is this? I guess China doesn't count. China's not a country. China's not an advanced economy. No, China's not an advanced economy, you guys. So, even the OECD, which is saying, hey, Canada's going to be in the shitter, right? Even these guys are just revealing, oh, by the way, yeah, this list is pretty fucking white supremacist. Just heads up. Heads up. Fucking idiots. Fucking dumbasses. Yeah, they'll force feed the populace. You're right about that, dude. Well, this is actually a failed argument already, right? Even the Americans don't buy into this anymore. This idea that, like, it's, if you give people benefits, then that's the problem. Literally, the only thing that's keeping the Canadian economy afloat right now are the benefits that we give out. Like, the idea that, like, yeah, the problem with the economy is that we create an economy. That's what they're saying. They're outright saying out loud to your face, in front of you, that the problem with the economy is that we create an economy. You gotta be a special kind of dark evil or like a special kind of stupid to say that kind of shit out loud and be taken seriously. Right? If the government gives the populace money that they can then use to buy goods and services with, right? And then that money gets taxed where? Back to the government, which then gives it to the people who then buy. Oh, look, you have an economy. Look, you have a fucking economy. You have a real, actually functioning economy. And then if you come and you take it away, you collapse that economy, and you tell these people, now go work for wages that don't buy the goods. Like, you gotta be a special kind of evil or a special kind of stupid to actually believe that this is gonna work. Like, the CERB and other benefits, yeah, equal 99% of spending in real economy, which drives demand. The real economy, exactly. Hey, Loaf, how you doing, bud? Khan's new mantra is just inflation. Another way to blame the economy on poor people. Yeah, I mean, the conservatives are, like, they're at the heart of the death cult, right? Like, they don't care about evidence. Like, they don't care about facts or evidence or any of this kind of shit. Like, these guys are deluded. Like, they're fucking deluded. Like, okay. What's driving this? Could be the fact that the fucking economy doesn't actually work. Could be the fact that capitalism fails. Okay, but let's take a look. A previous blog explained how real per capita GDP is the sum of A, growth in output per hour worked, so how much they can extract from you, right? That if they can get like 2 hours of labor out of your 1 hour of life, they will. And B, growth in hours worked per head of population, so how much work you're actually doing, right? So how much work you're actually doing and how much how much productivity, how much labor you actually achieve in that period of time, right? Why can't economists just talk like fucking people, right? Like, how much work you do and how productive you are when you do it. Like, these are not difficult concepts to understand. They're made complex on purpose. Of the two components, productivity growth is the more important detriment to future living standards because it is limited only by the pace of technological change and the ability of business and workers to adapt to it. On contrast, labor utilization growth has a natural ceiling based on demographics, labor force participation, and there being only so many hours people can or will work per year. Yeah, you can't get a person to work 26 hours a day, right? You can't drive people into complete burnout and destroy them. Right? I mean, you can, but then you lose them as a laborer completely, right? Which is another problem that doesn't get talked about, by the way. Like, if you burn people out and they can no longer participate in the labor force, it's a net loss, right? Like, it's a bad strategy, and yet it's like the core. It's the Amazon strategy. The OECD finds that Canada's prospect for real per capita GDP growth over 2020 to 2030 are poor because of feeble expected growth in output per hour worked, labor productivity, and a slight drag from hours worked per head of population. Right. A feeble expected growth in output per hours worked because they're not paying us wages. Right? We're not actually getting paid wages. Right? The wages they're paying don't cover the bills. So we're not working the jobs. Why? Because the jobs don't pay the rent. Very straightforward shit. Like, it's amazing that it's taking this long for these institutions to put together something that was put together by fucking beer drinking, like, pub dwellers 2 years ago. Like, we know. And the framing of this article is just being done so some fucking dumbass politician banker type can read it and be like, I suppose there's some truth to what's being said, I suppose. Although they don't fucking listen to us. The OECD predicts Canada will achieve low productivity growth over 2020-2030. Yeah, no shit. Like, no shit. Like, you're not paying a wage to pay rent, so people aren't working. And then the only support system you put in place to make sure people can actually have food and create a stable environment where they may actually become productive and actually begin doing stuff. Oh, well, you're trying to strip that away. It's not difficult to see what's fucking happening. Like, the purpose of our economy, such that it exists, is to extract wealth into the bank accounts of billionaires, which is being very successful. David Thompson's wealth has almost doubled over this period of time, right? Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, these guys have seen a ballooning. Like, it's not an incremental small 1%. We're talking about 50 to 100% increase in their wealth profile. Like, that is huge. And as the wealth of the billionaire class balloons, actual real productivity and economic growth declines. Holy shit, guys. It's almost as though Karl Marx was right. Holy fuck. It's almost like if you actually listen to an actual economist, actually do economics, and actually talk about the science of economics as opposed to this religious ideology we're all supposed to pay attention to. Turns out, evidence and facts are what matters. Whoa! OECD predicts labor utilization will be a drag on Canadian GDP per capita growth. Canada will also be the worst performing advanced economy over 2030 to 2060. Unfortunately, the next decade is not an aberration. The same OECD report projects Canada will also post the worst economic performance amongst advanced countries over 2030 to 2060, with real per capita GDP advancing by just 0.8% per annum. In other words, Canada will be dead last not only for the next decade, but also for the 3 decades after that. Wonka, wonk, 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 wonk. Like, this is a policy failure. This is a high-level federal government failure to a level that cannot be expressed in any language I'm familiar with. Like, it's a crapshoot. It's a complete failure. The conservatives and the liberals are garbage. They're garbage even on their own terms. The OECD says that because we've been listening to these conservatives and liberals, we are going to be the worst performing economy in the advanced nations for fucking 30 years. Keep voting liberal. Keep voting conservative. Keep voting liberal. Keep voting conservative. We're a serious country, guys. We're a serious country. We're not just simply an extraction project. We're not simply just a way for companies to extract wealth by enslaving us. What are you talking about? No, in no way is capitalism an overt, obvious death cult. It's completely the case. And like, the guy that we're supposed to be sucking up to, the United States, look where they're at, right? Look where they're at. They're no better, right? They're like slightly ahead of us. Where are they on this? Oh, they're over here in the second quartile. Again, who are all the countries that are advancing? Oh, it's the countries that are trading with China. Where's China on this list? Oh, interesting how they just omitted China from this list. You know why? Because China would be right fucking here. Right fucking here. Embarrassing the fucking shit out of us. Making us look like the goddamn ridiculous children that we actually are. Worst performing, maybe, but at least we aren't red. Yep, better dead than red, right? Fucking morons. Like, God. Literally, like, I will cut my nose off to spite my face. Like, literally, that's what they're saying. I would rather die than listen to facts. I would rather die than listen to evidence. The only perspective that matters is mine, even after it fails repeatedly. Yours is the failure. Now excuse me while I attempt to put out this... Well, attempt to ignore this house fire. Like... All right. Let's... Conclusion. Past generations of young Canadians entering the workforce could look forward to favorable tailwinds, lifting real incomes over their working lives. That's no longer the case. If the OECD's long-range predictions prove correct, young people entering the workforce today will not feel much of a tailwind at all. Rather, they face a long period of stagnating average real incomes that will last most of their working lives. On average, Canadian living standards and our quality of life relative to other countries are set to decline as other countries make their economies more productive. Long-range projections are not certain, but in providing a glimpse of a possible future, they offer us an opportunity to reflect and make a course correction, lest they become reality. It is time for Canada's political class to rethink their priorities and take steps to create the conditions for a more productive economy. This will require some hard thinking from fucking the walking haircut that's Justin Trudeau, and expertise about how to raise labor productivity growth and real wage growth through higher business investment per worker, raise your fucking wages, faster innovation adoption, make life easier for workers, and adjusting the incentives and disincentives facing Canadian companies aspiring to operate at scale. Confront monopoly capitalists. Like, the OECD is fucking like smacking you in the face with it. Literally just like, raise your wages, make life better for workers, improve things, better, do it. And it's like the OECD. Like, it's like an as entrenched white supremacist organization as exists. Like, and they're not going to do it. And you know why they're not going to do it? Because capitalism's a death cult. Capitalism's a death cult. It doesn't care about facts or evidence. It only cares about its dead ideology. Capitalism's a death cult. Yeah! That was a nice little song. Right? Oh my god. This is what happens on protest days, guys. I'm a little unhinged. I'm going to be honest. I love it, though. I love the energy. Okay. So that's this ridiculous bullshit nonsense, right? Like, literally, we're in the shitter. Everybody knows it. And our political class is literally doing nothing about it because that doesn't make billionaires rich. Very straightforward. Very straightforward. Yeah, they're commodifying water. They plan on setting the price of water in commodities markets. Literally, life on Earth is at risk. Yeah, the idea that they're commodifying water, by the way, is the goddamn stupidest idea ever. It is actually the stupidest idea ever. You want to grind your economy right down to a halt? Commodify water. But it's nothing new, right? It's nothing new. The British attempted to commodify salt, right? They made it illegal in India for Indians to go down to the ocean and get salt out of the ocean, right? Remember? Gandhi had this whole fucking thing where he walked down to the ocean and he just got some salt in the face of the British, and the British were just ooh, about it, right? Big Mac he, you ain't ever gonna have a six-pack he. 1, 2, 3, 4, you got belly rolls. Jesus. I don't have belly rolls. I'm doing okay. I do need to lose a little bit of this punch. The problem is that everybody in my family has a little punch. It doesn't seem to matter. I straight up have to become an Arnold Schwarzenegger type to get rid of this fucking punch. Nah, that's okay. That's okay. When factory workers, this comes from Dr. Lucky Tran, when factory workers are fired for leaving before a tornado, when teachers are scrambling on the floor for dollar bills to fund their classes, when healthcare workers are quitting from burnout because we refuse to stop a deadly virus, it's time to radically overhaul your society. When the OECD says that you're the fucking dead last economy, yeah, time to start thinking about radically overhauling your society. But the politicians and the billionaires don't care. They care about having billions of dollars. That's what they care about. They don't give a shit about us. They don't give a shit about the economy. They don't care at all. They care about having billions of dollars for themselves. Period. Full stop. Full stop. Why would they give a shit about the economy? Who gives a fuck about that? They don't. Clearly. God, I'm so looking forward to when the National Post starts publishing this shit, dude. The Capitalist Manifesto. The Capitalist Manifesto is just going to be a beautiful, brutal, psychotic work of art. It's going to be just psychopaths just gloating about how psychopathic they are. It's going to be brilliant. Canada's home price will rise by 10.5% by the end of 2022. No immediate answers, say liberals. It will take years of work to correct, according to Finance Minister Freeland. Why will it take years? Because they refuse to confront the billionaire class. That's why. Elon Musk cares about you? Just JC. Lucky. Wow, you've got a sweet billionaire boyfriend? Oh my god. Did you hear that Iran raised wages of teachers after large protests? Yeah. No, this is the thing. What's happening in the Middle East? With the United States actually withdrawing from Afghanistan, right? With the United States actually withdrawing from Afghanistan, and they will leave Iraq. It's predestined. Everyone knows it's going to happen, right? They're either going to leave Iraq explicitly, or they'll simply come to a place where the internal democracy that does exist within Iraq will just get them to leave. The Iraqis have already formally asked the Americans to leave, right? It's predestined in the stars. So, Iran, think about Iran's position in all of this. A major, gigantic, monstrous threat, a psychotic, goon who's been threatening to fucking go in there and blow the shit out of Iran like they did Iraq, right, has left on their eastern border. It's just gone. Their eastern border is just it's America free, right? They are now communicating with who? The Taliban, right? They're communicating with the fucking Taliban. So like this has like eased up things incredibly, like massively, right? And so when you've got like a whole bunch of teachers that come out and are like, "Hey, we'd like things to be better," well, the Iranians are sitting there being like, "You know what? We can actually do that. We can actually do that because there isn't this looming threat of existential like death, right? There isn't this looming threat that like the Americans will come in and just destroy us." You are going to see Iran especially, because Iran is the one in the region, Iran and Saudi Arabia, incidentally, were the ones in the region that didn't get blown to shit. Afghanistan blown to shit. Iraq blown to shit. Syria blown to shit. Oman, Yemen blown to shit. Pakistan blown to shit. Turkmenistan blown to shit. Right? Turkey managed not to get blown to shit, took a fascist to do it. Like, Egypt had an uprising. What happened? Blown to shit. Like, Iran's literally sitting there being like, please do not blow us up. Please do not. They'll leave when the oil's depleted. Yeah, Matthias, you're probably onto it. You're probably onto it. Honestly, I actually do think that the Americans are starting to realize that like the sunk costs of keeping these wars going haven't actually paid. Like the wars didn't pay for themselves, right? Like it's been very costly. It's been very costly because turns out that the citizens of these countries didn't just roll over and be like, "Oh, thank God Americans are here." Like, mission accomplished. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Like, if you want to see a moment of American hubris on a massive scale, the hubris of empire, it's that fucking mission accomplished moment. When Bush was like, mission accomplished, it's like, yeah, no, bud. Like, yeah, no. And so Iran, in the midst of all of this, like, Iran is going to become like a jewel. Like, it is. It's going to become like a little jewel. And chances are good that they're going to go through like a big governmental turnover. Right now, it's essentially a theocracy, right? Which makes sense. Countries during periods of invasion and stress swing to the right for very good reasons, right? Like, as much as we hate these like gun nut guys, as much as we hate these guys who are like, "This is Bertha. No, I love Bertha. Yeah, she's an AR-48 38298-573 with a 485 scope. I can kill a watermelon from 7,000 miles away. Yeah, I can call in a tactical nuclear strike with this button right here, right?" As long as we like, as much as we hate those guys, the reality is if there was a fucking invading force, you would be super glad to have that guy around. Like, you for sure. Like, if you had a neighbor who like had like 58 AR-15s and just was like always working them and always like all this kind of stuff, and then fucking your next, like the next city over started to invade you, you'd be like, "Hey, Gus, tell me more about those AR-15s." "Let me tell you about the AR-15. Like, you'd be super glad that your next door neighbor was Gus. And don't bullshit yourself. It's absolutely the truth. And that's essentially what's happening in Afghanistan and Iran, right? That like the gun nuts take over. And you're like, okay, like the guys who want to shoot guns and are happy to shoot guns want to take over in a period of time when it would be really useful. Like, it'd be really useful to have that guy, right? But once periods of peace take over, you know, people kind of look at Gus and are like, "Okay, Gus, like when it came time to shooting people, like you were great and all, but, you know, Florence has things to say, you know? Oh yeah, Iran is beautiful. No, you're right about that, dude. One of the things, absolutely, the painted mountains of Tabriz. Don't need to ask me twice, dude. Yeah, look at this. Look at this shit. Like, if you didn't know that this was real, you would think it was a cartoon. Like, this is glorious. This looks like candy, right? It looks like this looks like a bowl of ice cream, right? You can just scoop your hand right in, get a. Yeah, I got that article right here, bud. And my favorite, Matthias, my absolute favorite about this is they're not going to do fuck all about it. They're not going to do fuck all about it. They're telling you they're not going to do fuck all about it, right? That's my favorite. Like, do we have a quote? Let's see the stupid fucking quote. There doesn't appear to be blah, blah, blah. Come on, give me another. Okay. They don't even use a proper quote. The Toronto market remains a catalyst, according to a report by Royal LePage. A large number of newcomers are also expected to enter Canada next year, slaves, and many of them will settle in the GTA, putting upward pressure on prices. Like, my favorite is that they do this, and they're literally just, like, ignoring the billionaires. The problem is immigrants. The problem is immigrants, you guys. It's not the billionaires. Pay no attention to the billionaire class. It's the immigrants. That's the problem. Like, let's take a look. Let's take a look at this fucking report by Royal LePage. Like, ugh. You know what, man? Fuck this. Fuck this. I don't give a shit. Like, Canada's home prices are going to rise. The Liberals are going to do fuck all about it. Why? Because the Liberals are bought. They're bought by the billionaire class. And how do we know that's the case? Because they refuse to raise taxes on the billionaires. They're completely happy with the billionaire class as it is. They don't give a shit. Like, they don't care about us. Like, when this whole thing goes to shit, the billionaires are going to retreat to their islands, and the Trudeaus and the Freelands will go with them. Right? Real fucking straightforward shit. Where's our Rainbow Mountains? Huh? Maybe this is why we're having such a difficult time with homosexuality here in North America, because we don't have Rainbow Mountains. Right? Yes, conservatives will get back in power with promises of cutting down immigration. Yeah. No, that's exactly right. But you're right about that, Tinker. Like, they're going to create a narrative. Like, and we've seen this happen, right? They'll create a narrative that the problem is immigration, and then they'll get elected on the promise of cutting down immigration, and they will. They will cut down on immigration, and they will deport people, and they will do all the fascist bullshit that the fascists love. And it won't help at all. Won't help at all. I'd be willing to bet Trudeau's house they'll do nothing about it. No, they're telling, like, no one's going to take that bet, because they're telling you they're going to do nothing about it, right? Like, the Liberals are literally in the position right now. The Liberals are literally in the position right now where they are outright saying, yes, the house is burning down. Yes, we have a fire department. No, we're not going to mobilize the fire department. That's literally the position they're in. Not literally, figuratively the position they're in. But, like, it's a tight metaphor. It's a tight metaphor. They have the power to do something, they choose not to. Very simply. And why? Because they don't want their billionaire buddies to be upset about it. If their billionaire buddies get upset about it, I don't think there's a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it. Like, get fucked. Get fucked, Liberals. Like, at this stage in the game, if you're voting Liberal, you're just either the most incompetent person, which, I mean, Canada, right? But, or you're just completely complicit. And neither is forgivable at this point. Just stop voting for these guys. It's not hard. And if you can't stomach voting for a guy in a turban or voting for, like, a minority in another party, stop voting. Just don't vote. Right? That would be preferable. Trudeau's focus seems to be on announcing his disapproval for the Beijing Olympics. Yeah, what a joke. That's an international failure, by the way. The entire rest of the international community is laughing at us over this, like, literally tittering to each other. Like we look like morons. We look like really big fucking stupid morons. Because that's what starving Canadians are worried about. Yeah. Yep. prairie drought drives Canada's canola wheat production down more than 35%. I'm real looking forward to these famines, guys. Like, the famines are going to be the best part. It's going to be the best part about this climate change shit, right? It's not going to be the wildfires. It's not going to be the towns burning down, right? It's not going to be the flooding, right? It's not going to be any of that stuff. It's going to be the famines. Those are what I'm really looking forward to reporting on. Oh, yeah, the famines. Just for clarity's sake, I am not looking forward to the famines. Curtis McRae opens a half-empty grain bin, picks up a handful of C's. It's not pretty canola, he jokes. That's such a farmer joke. I grew up around farmers, man. That's exactly the type of shit that they would say. You okay, buddy? What's the story, Wishbone? What's the story? You okay? You didn't bring me anything. I don't have anything. Where's your toy? All right. They got dry enough that they stopped growing. That was something we haven't seen, he said in an interview with CBC last week. Throughout the season, we knew we were in trouble. The latest numbers from Statistics Canada show he's not alone. This summer's drought drove down crop yields for the entire country, the federal agency says. Several major grains grown in Western Canada had the largest yearly yield decrease on record. Canola production fell 35.4% nationally, and wheat production was down 38.5%. We can just incrementally solve this problem, guys. What we're going to do is we're going to lower emission. We're going to get to net zero by 2050, and we're going to get to net zero by 2050 by increasing emissions 30%. And then we'll use that increase in emissions in order to set ourselves up to then, in 2050, actually get to a point where we're net zero then. And any famines or wildfires or burning down that happens between now and then, we're just gonna have to accept. We're for sure gonna get to net zero by 2050, guys. That's for sure. That's gonna happen. Boy, am I not looking forward to these famines, man. Boy, am I not looking forward to these famines. Like, Justin Trudeau is the worst prime minister in history. Like, other prime ministers have done shitty things, sure. No other prime minister has worked this hard to ensure that the damage to Canada has been maximized, right? Like, has any other prime minister actually attempted to do this much damage to Canada, right? Like, literally, Justin Trudeau is just, like, opening up the gates to the barbarians and being like, don't worry, guys. We'll prevent the barbarian invasions in 50 years. Yeah, honey never goes bad. Stock up. That's actually true, by the way. Honey never goes bad. When they found honey they opened up a tomb of like Tut, like King Tut and all this shit. When they opened up those tombs, they found honey that was good. It was good to eat. And they did. Honey's a goddamn miracle food, dude. Oh, check the live stream. Check in the live stream. Oh, yeah. What did she say? So for those of you who listen, Pelosi rejects stock trading ban for member of Congress. We are a free market economy. They should be able to participate in that. Corruption is good. Yeah, we just need to give more money to the kulaks. Exactly. Brutal. Been hearing from friends in Nova Scotia that Halifax and Dartmouth have an increase in tent cities popping. Of course they do. Like, these guys have to go somewhere, right? If we chase them out of the major cities, where do you think they're going to go? Right? Like, and it's going to get worse. Like, it's going to get significantly worse, guys. Like, significantly worse. Like, we are being told, like, I would be maybe talking a different tune if our political class was like, oh shit, this is a crisis, an emergency. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do this. The current ruling class and the leaders of the opposition are outright telling us that their plan is to do nothing. This is going to get way worse. Way worse. Significantly worse. Like, I am concerned for myself. I am concerned as an individual living in the world that I am going to experience homelessness. Good time to say, give me money in my Patreon, by the way. But like, and if you are not genuinely concerned that you may experience homelessness in your life during this period of time, then you are extraordinarily lucky. Like, or just fucking deluded, but pick your poison. Pelosi's brother is her stockbroker. Yeah, like, corruption is built into the system, right? Like, America doesn't have any corruption. We've got lobbying. Like, that's how it works. 5 ways Doug Ford's government harmed public services in 2021. Plotting to fire thousands of frontline education workers. I mean, this is straight up conservative, like, 101, right? Just get rid of the public sector and privatize, right? What do we got? Allowing private long-term care homes to raise rents. This is actually evil. Like, it's just evil. Like, like fighting paid sick days. Very famous story. Privatizing parts of Ontario's healthcare system, putting a former Shoppers Drug Mart lobbyist in charge of his pandemic response. Like, Doug Ford is an incredible blazing sack of shit. Like, he's literally what you would get if Lucifer had sex with a bag of garbage. That's what you would end up with. Even with those with jobs that could all go away one day. You're in the same boat, no more bills, with more bills to pay. Yeah, truly, we all need to unite regardless of politics, race, creed, etc. Yeah, and the people who are allowing themselves to get like suckered in with, oh yeah, that's not a bad idea actually. I've been thinking about a ham radio. Do I need a license to operate a ham radio? Ham radio. I think about this shit all the time, dude. When they privatize the internet, a guy like me is not going to make it. Like, by policy, I'm not going to make it, right? Like, and they are planning to privatize the internet. Web 3.0 is the privatization of the internet, and like, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do once they get rid of me? What are they going to do? Like, what am I going to do rather? And stuff like they can't tell me not to get a ham radio. Like, they can't tell me not to do that. Shelter systems in most cities are garbage. Yeah, freezing in tents are preferred. Yeah, I've actually talked to lots of people in those tents, and they say outright, I'd rather be in the tent, right? Like, and it's just a waste of our money. And like, more and more, the more research I do on these systems, right, the more I realize that a lot of that money is just like, a lot of that money is just wasted on the bureaucracy. Yes, you need a license to be a ham. It's not illegal. The grid and infrastructure is so fragile and could go away in a poof. Yeah, for sure. Okay, there's something I really, really want to get to. So I'm just going to skip over some of these articles. I got tons of articles, as you can see. Go. I love this. This is great. Jesus is Lord. Repent. Turn your sin to Jesus. Right, one of these classic guys. And then literally, there's like a stripper. Feeling down? Our dream girls rejoice in dancing, and you will be merry. Jeremiah 31:13. Then shall the young women rejoice in the dance, and the young men and the old men shall be merry. I will turn their mourning into joy. I will comfort them and give them gladness for sorrow. Go see some dancing at Dream Girls. I am in favor of this form of advertising. Gotta tell you. Oh man, I had this like fucking great moment at the protest. So at Yonge and Dundas Square, there are these like Christians who like get the mic and actually like try to do their Christian shit, right? Jesus is Lord. Come to Jesus. Repent. All this kind of stuff. These guys are frauds. They're the biggest frauds ever, right? Their grift is very simple. Maintain the system of poverty by voting liberal and conservative, right? Maintain the system of poverty by voting liberal and conservative, right? And then grift the populace by getting them to give you donations so that you can do like a potluck on Thursdays or something, right? To pretend like you give a shit about poverty alleviation whatsoever, right? And then take the rest of the money and go buy a fucking yacht. Like, that's the grift. and I said this out loud in front of these fucking fake Christians, I saw that it deflated their balloon a little bit, and I was happy to do it. Fuck these guys. Like, fuck these guys. If these guys actually gave a shit about their Christ at all, they'd already have been in the streets. They would be the ones organizing these protests. They would be the ones at the forefront, but they don't give a shit about that at all. They're grifters and con men. To a T. To an individual. Like, the reason why they're out on the street being like, come to Jesus, Jesus is Lord, is so that they can, like, try to find, like, the most desperate people. Right? Find the most desperate people suffering from large mental illnesses so that you can grift them. Right? That's the whole strategy. Can't stand them. Can't stand them. Can't stand them at all. I love to call them out. I'll call them out in front of their face. Okay, so this is a really, really useful series of articles that I'm going to show you. Because in the chat, there's been a couple of people who have said to me, so, like, what do you read? Like, what do you do? Like, what John, you seem so well-read and intelligent, and you seem like you know what's going on. Thank you. I'm good at pretending like I know what's going on. But this really does show you, like, when you read articles, when you see stuff, here's the strategy, okay? So here's a Business Insider article. Business Insider? That should be a reliable source of information, you think, for some reason. A North Korean man who smuggled Squid Game into the country is to be executed by firing squad, and a high school student who brought a USB drive with the show will be jailed for life, report says. Oh my god! If all you did was read the article, you'd be like, North Korea is obviously a dystopian hellhole. Okay, let's take a look at the article, right? Who's their source? North Korea appears to come down hard on people who distribute and watch Netflix hit show Squid Game. A report by, Radio Free Asia. A report by Radio Free Asia. Oh, okay. Who's Radio Free Asia? If we click on the link that they give us, right, it takes you to Radio Free Asia itself, right, and gives you the report. And the report is just full of, like, lots of great phrases like this. Another 6 high schoolers, blah, 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 blah. A law enforcement source. An unnamed source. There's all that kind of stuff where there's, like, all that, right? And they even define it. RFA, right? Radio Free Asia is a U.S. government-funded nonprofit news service that serves audiences in Asia. So they outright admit it. Right? They outright admit it. Oh, it's a U.S. government-funded nonprofit news service. Like, it's the CIA. Like, if you go to their Wikipedia page, is a United States government-funded private nonprofit news service. Oh. So, like, read the article, takes 30 seconds to just do a perusal, and just, like, find this, right? Do a search on the source, right? Very, very cleanly. And once you find out, okay, so even if you don't want to take the CIA angle, it's still U.S. government funded, so it's U.S. propaganda, right? So here's the U.S. propaganda, okay? Well, and if you get real curious, you could just type into Google North Korean Squid Game, right? So from IndieWire, right? So this is the North Korean propaganda. North Korea salutes Squid Game for critiquing South Korea's beastly capitalist society. So, like, literally the opposite. Like, literally the opposite. That the North Koreans are saying Squid Game is excellent. We like it. It does a great job of critiquing capitalism, right? A state-run North Korean propaganda website is the latest to weigh on a Netflix wildly popular Squid Game, applauding what it believes to be the drama's depiction of the beastly reality. And then we're supposed to believe this? We're supposed to believe this? Nah, dude, RT is better. Like, RT is better. Straight up. Like, this is overt lying, right? Like, what I see in RT is not overt lying, right? It's certainly got its perspective, like, it's certainly on its own position, but it doesn't tell like overt lies. This is, and you can see that it's an overt lie. Just do like basic comparison. North Korea salutes Squid Game for critiquing South Korea's beastly capitalist society. A North Korean man who smuggled Squid Game into the country is to be executed by firing squad. So, someone's lying. Who do you think it is? Like, why would North Korea execute a man for showing people a film that they praise? Like, it doesn't make sense. So, the most likely culprit is probably the person who's trying to destroy the country, right? Funded and supervised by the U.S. Agency for Global Media, funded by United States government, distributes content in Asian languages for China, North Korea, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Myanmar. Yeah, and you can do this for like lots of things. Like you can do this for basically everything. The strategy is real simple. Read the headline, take a look at the article, find the source. Always find the source, right? If you don't know what the source is, discover what the source is, right? In this case, they outright just told you, which was nice of them to do. They didn't have to do that, but even a Wikipedia search found that out. And then once you find that out, you can do just like a basic Google search to corroborate, right? And you're done. Useful. But you see the depths that they're willing to actually go to, right? Like you see the depths, the depravity, the overt brutal lies. Like the overt brutal lies. They just accused North Korea of executing a man and imprisoning a teenager for life for bringing a USB stick with Squid Game into the country. Yikes. That is an enormous accusation. That is an enormous accusation to lay at the feet of a nation. To say of a country that it is executing citizens by firing squad because they brought a Netflix show into the country. This is the level of their depravity. There is no lie they will not tell. I mean, equivalency in that they're both funded by their respective governments. Yeah, that's a fair thing to say. That's a fair thing to say, Matthias. Like when you look at RT, you should be aware that it's Russian funded, it's state funded media. But like Chris Hedges has a show. Like the Russian strategy in terms of its own propaganda is to just let the Americans tell the truth about their own country. That seems to be the Russian strategy. Literally like, oh, you are American? Oh, you wish to tell the truth about America? Yes, come over. You have show. Very good. But there's like 5 Americans. Like Abby Martin has been on RT. Chris Hedges has been on RT. There's the what's he called? Oh my God, I'm completely blanking on his show. The short dude with the long hair and the beard. He thinks he's a comedian, but he's not really one. It doesn't matter. Rick Sanchez is on RT. And it's like the Russian strategy for dealing with this period is to basically take the people who the American media refuses to platform and platform them. That's it. Lee Camp, you got it. Thanks, Dan Boxes. Thanks, bud. And Lee Camp's good, don't get me wrong. I don't mean to disparage him as a comedian, but he thinks he's a comedian and he's not. I kind of wish he'd like get away from it. I kind of wish that he'd start taking himself seriously as an actual like political commentator, because like if you want to see a really nice blending of comedy versus what's really going on, you want some more news with Cody Johnston. That's who you want. Like that guy's funny and really captures the manic energy of the day. Like really captures the manicness of what it is to be alive in the world. Oh, what a good little boy. I know, buddy. I know. I wasn't here all day, and now I'm shouting at a screen. and you don't understand any of it, and you're just thinking to yourself, why aren't I getting pets? Why aren't I getting pets? It's a very good question, Milo. Do you want to come up? No, you just want pets. Okay. He's a bit too campy. No, he's just not funny. Like, that's what it really comes down to. It's like, every time he tells a joke, it's just not funny. And it's like, it's like technically humor, you know? Like wordplay and like a lot of like, come on, man, like a lot of that kind of stuff. But in the end, he's just not funny. And he wants to be funny. Do you know what I mean? Like, he wants to be funny, but he isn't. And but he's very well informed, and his news sources are always good, and his stories are always good, and his storytelling is good. So I just kind of wish he'd get away from this the camp. Yeah, exactly as you say, just the campy bullshit, and just tell the story. Be a serious commentator. Be a serious commentator, right? Like, exactly. Like, he does great work. So it's such an odd critique. Like, it's one of the weirdest critiques ever. It's like, what a great ally who's on our side, fighting the good fight, doing good work, standing on the side of truth and justice. But boy, is he ever not as funny as he thinks he is. Like, it's such a weird dig. Like, such a weird, like, You will have the honor, nay the privilege, of staying in the factory during a deadly tornado. Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. Do you guys think that the creators of Shrek thought that this was going to become, like, as important a moment in, like, cinematic history as it's become? Do you guys think that when they like wrote that scene, they really thought to themselves that this is going to stick forever? That people are going to, like, superimpose Jeff Bezos's head onto this character? That our character is going to become synonymous with, like, super villainy? Like, is there a more spread about meme in regards to, like, just killing your own workers and your own citizens than this one? It's brilliant. It's totally brilliant. The arts, right? That's why they got to get rid of the arts, right? They can't have artists creating art, because then shit like this starts to happen. Can't have that. Better privatize the internet. $7 million fine proposed for Alberta Bitcoin mine that set up a power plant without permission. We gotta get rid of this shit, guys. Like, we gotta get rid of this Bitcoin shit. Like, the Bitcoin shit's gotta go away. Like, it has to. Like, it has to go away. It's an ecological disaster for nothing. Like, that's the best part. Like, at least a guy driving around is like, Ford F-18 Jimmy. Like, at least that guy's, like, driving around in a Ford F-18 Jimmy, right? Like, at least the people who are, like, playing with their toys are playing with a toy, right? Bitcoin is completely worthless. It provides no value, it accomplishes nothing, and it's an ecological disaster. It's literally just a moronic game for millionaires and billionaires to play with each other. It's the stupidest shit ever. And we're all supposed to be walking around being like, wow, this is the future. Yeah, the future is now, you guys. Like, get completely fucked. Get completely fucked. Like, any country who is using Bitcoin or NFTs or any of this shit seriously is a child's country. It's a childish country. It is not a real place. Like, literally, I will go to this point. If your country is accepting Bitcoin as an actual thing, then your laws don't matter. Your country has already abandoned you. Like, you're completely bereft. You don't need to follow these goddamn laws. They're embarrassing. I'll bet the Kenny government gave them a break on the power bill. Yeah, probably. Like, Vancouver-based Link Global set up 4 1.25 megawatt gas generators at a site in Sturgeon County last year. Like, get fucked. Get completely fucked. Like this is why I say to you guys, like, just do stuff. Don't ask for permission. Don't follow their stupid goddamn rules. Don't ask for permission. They're not. Right? Like, the powerful and the wealthy are not asking for permission. They're destroying this place just cuz. Right? And why? So that we can have fake money dollars to trade with one another. Get totally fucked. Like, get totally fucked. Like, this should not be a fine. Like, these people should go to jail. Like, we should be done with this garbage. We should eliminate cryptocurrencies. We should make it a fucking executable crime. It should be considered treason what they're doing. Like, this is absurd. It's absurd. We're gonna burn down our cities so that we can have a digital coin. Like, you've got to be mentally ill to actually think this is correct. Like, it's a proposed fine at that. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Get fucked. Average Canadian house price hit all-time high of $720,000 in November. Normal society, guys. Oh, and by the way, the Liberals have said they're not going to do anything about it. Nah, don't need to do anything about that. No, totally normal. Normal society, normal people, right? We're not dumb children in the thrall of some psychotic death cult at all. Normal. My neighbor told me coyotes keep eating us out. No, this is unrelated. Oh, this gets into a new piece of evidence came out about vaccines. This is worth talking about. For those questioning the vaccines, BC has released new data that shows the average unvaccinated resident is 7 times more likely to catch COVID, 30 times more likely to wind up in the hospital, and 50 times more likely to wind up in the ICU. Like, there's lots of data going around with this COVID thing. So I get really, like, touch and go, but when the data comes out, you got to report on it. You got to report on it. So here it is. Get vaccinated. Get vaccinated. Go do it. Isn't this brilliant? This is one of these absolutely brilliant things. So this is from Salem Snow. Here's how you know your society has abandoned you. PPC loans were created in 2020. Within 1.5 years, over 80% of them have been forgiven, totaling $600 billion. Student loans started around 1958 to 1965. 60 years later, 0.6% of student loan debt has been forgiven. 0.6%. No one asked how we would pay for business loan forgiveness. Your society has abandoned you. It's extremely clear to, like, anyone at all. The only people who are still investing in this society as if it is a real thing that is actually trying to build itself as a society or civilization are people who are caught in a mass hysteria. And they are only going to snap out of it once they themselves are abandoned. Or they die. Right? Like, that for the people who are still doubling down on this, like, that seems to be the only path. That they will have to be abandoned themselves in order to take it seriously. That, like, they're not even listening to their own children. They're not even hearing what their own children are telling them. They're literally just like, you'll become conservative when you're older. Just shake his hand and look him in the eye. What? That's how you get a job. You just shake a guy's hand and look at him in the eye. Come on. What are you, lazy? Avocado toast. Right? Like, the abandonment is palpable and it is real and it is directly in front of us. Public-private partnerships. PPP stands for public-private partnerships, which have been a complete and total disaster. The idea being The idea between a public-private partnership is that instead of just taxing the money from the psychopath class and then using that money in order to pay for things, you create a business deal between the government and the business class known as fascism that guarantees a return on investment. These have all failed because capitalists are incapable of building anything. They don't care about building infrastructure or any of this kind of stuff. And as you can see, within 1.5 years of them, 80% of them have been forgiven because they've been an enormous failure as an idea. They don't work. The reason why they don't work is because capitalists straight up do not care about building infrastructure. They don't care. Complete 0%, like non-starter. What do you define on fascism and how it relates to capitalism? Excellent question, Kate. Excellent question, Kate. So, there are many different ways of looking at it. The more traditional side of it says that fascism is a form of capitalism. That capitalism is itself like a block, like it's its own word, capitalism. And that is the means of production are privately owned. That's what that means. That someone owns the means of production and they just own it because they own it. Right? They just own it. And it doesn't matter if they bought it or it was passed down to them from their daddy. Usually it is passed down from the daddy. And then when you actually find out, well, where did you get the means of production in the first place? You find out that it was through some act of genocide or straight out war. And then what happens is you get caught in a death spiral where the owner of the means of production uses labor to increase the means of production and withholds the means of production from the working class. So that's capitalism. Fascism appears when the capitalist class is threatened. And so it uses violence in order to defend itself. I prefer to use a definition of fascism that was given by Mussolini himself, which is that he said fascism is better called corporatism because it is the merger of corporate and state power. Like a theocracy is the merger of church and state, so fascism is the merger of business and state, which makes PPP loans, public-private partnership, fascist, right? By definition. And I thought it went more along the lines of like government dictatorship. Well, a dictatorship is its own thing. Like a dictatorship is a dictatorship. Like it doesn't need to be fascist to be a dictatorship because you can have many different forms of dictatorship. In the case of fascism specifically, fascism is when the state operates on behalf of the business class in order to inflict violence against the populace. And exactly, Barnabas, that's a good point. Fascist, not always a Nazi. The reason why we put fascism and Nazism like together is because the Nazis were a really like powerful institution of fascism. Yeah, but corporate ownership and control of individual franchise is still governed by democracy. Who owns the democracy? Who owns the democracy? Like, I understand where you're coming from like a idealistic perspective, but who owns the democracy? The same people that own the corporations own the democracy, right? And they own it through very obvious, clear means, right? Obvious, overt corruption. In America, you can literally give infinite money to political campaigns, right? So who owns the democracy? And this is always what happens in capitalism, by the way. That like the owners of the means of production will use the wealth they accumulate through extracting wealth from the public to purchase the political system to ensure that they always own the means of production. That's how it works. And you can see it. Like it's traceable, it's obvious. Fascism is the state of defense of capitalism, not afraid to become very brutal to suppress labor if needed. Well, if you just think of it's as clean as this, okay? It is as clean as this, right? Capitalism, fascism. That's it. It's the same guy, it's just smiling and frowning. Yeah, you mean lobbying? Sure. Like if you want to call it that. I call it corruption, pretty clearly, pretty obviously corruption. And side note, communists are pro-drug democracy, yeah. And most communist countries have some form of like just because it's not American or Canadian or European democracy doesn't make it any less democratic, right? That they have a democratic system. They just also insist on having some form of vetting in their system, right? Like instead of it being literally a popularity contest, instead of literally calling it a popularity contest between like two illiterate boobs, you actually have a structure that actually vets these people and asks them like, hey, are you competent? Are you actually capable of this? Right? Like that's what happens in China. In China, they straight up are just like, okay, we're going to give you control of like a little district. Okay, you did great. So we're going to give you control of like a larger area. Okay, we're going to give you control of like a whole province now, right? And you've got to go through these stages of actually doing good work. And they actually like, as a system, they look at the work that you did and they critique you and they say, okay, like how'd you do? Like, are you competent? Can you do this? Right? And through that system, there's democratic elements as well. So, like, I know. You want to come up? You're coming up. Too bad. I know. And it seems to be working out. Because, like, instead of here in America where it's just like, well, I have $1 billion. I will be the governor of Florida or whatever, right? I just need to convince a bunch of gullible rubes to vote for me and then I'm the governor. Right? Instead of that, it's like I have been working in the government system for 40 years. All of the people around me in the institution believe that I am doing a good job. They've said that I've been they said that I've been doing a good job of it. And I need to then so I'm going to run for this higher position and they vote for me and I win, right? Like, or lose. What do you think the most successful system / government country is? That's a pretty difficult question to ask because so much of human experience is transitory. Like, it is transitory. The reason why I call myself a communist is because communism is about the advancement of the species, whereas capitalism is about the enrichment of 5 people. Like, it's not difficult to see why someone should want to be a communist. Would you prefer to advance the entire species together, or would you prefer to enrich a small cabal of sociopaths? Like, it's not difficult to see which way the wind should go on that. In terms of structure, the most successful system and government structure, you want to be taking a look. You do want to be taking a pretty sharp look at China right now. Time will bear out the truth of the statement. It hasn't been in place long enough, but they're doing a really good job of rooting out corruption. They're doing a really good job of stabilizing themselves. They're doing a really good job of actually responding to the demands of their own populace, right? While also attempting to keep everything free. I'm just thinking sustainability without unfair distribution of power. Oh, okay, like, one of the most sustained economies that existed in Western society was the tally stick system, right? So you had your feudal serfs, right? They were working in the fields. Okay. What happened is Julius Caesar started this process, and it continued. He created communes. One of the reasons he may have been assassinated was for doing this, by the way. He created communes where slaves would be released onto the land, and they were owned by no one. They were serfs, right? That serfs are actually not owned directly. They are tied to the land. And the landholder technically owns the serfs because the serfs are tied to the land. But the serfs essentially are free on the land. There are aberrations on this, right? And there are all shitty things that you can find throughout history for sure. But generally, the serfs lived on the land and grew grain and existed and were more or less left alone to their own devices, right? And Kate, you're going to find that lots of communist countries end wrong because their leadership sells out to neoliberal capitalists, or they're literally bombed by capitalists. Throw the example. What example are you thinking about, Kate? Let's get real specific. But the tally stick system. So, literally, the king would distribute tally sticks into the populace, right? They would distribute a bunch of sticks into the populace, and those sticks would be used as currency, the way that we use currency, the same exact system. And then every so often, and some systems would be yearly, and some would be a couple of years and all this, they would all bring the sticks back in, right? And the king had what was called a tally stick, and they would take all the sticks and they would tally them to make sure that there was no fraud happening or corruption or duplication, counterfeiting. There was no counterfeiting, right? And then he would redistribute the tally sticks. And it was the most stable economy that existed in Europe for 1,000 years. No economic collapses, stable economy, right? Everything working out just fine. Because it admitted fundamentally that the fundamental flaw of currencies is that they get monopolized, that they tend to gravitate into being a small collective monopoly. And so the European kings and queens and princes and all these guys, the lords and ladies, were all just nah, that's dumb. That's really stupid. Let's just not do that. And it's not until they stop this practice, right? They stop this practice of redistribution, that you start to end up with monopoly capitalists. And then the capitalists are able to become so powerful that they are able to buy parcels of land out. They're able to buy the serfs, right? The land and the serfs, and then force those serfs off the land into factories, right? And this is the beginning of industrialization. So there are tornadoes in Iowa, Minnesota, and fires in Kansas. You bet. You bet. It's just getting started. I think you'll find that being bombed or overthrown by military superpower of the world has an effect on countries, yeah? More power to government is required to spread wealth and healthcare, yet those on top are prone to corruption by power and money. Yeah. I know I'll get laughed at because I know you're more educated. I was wondering, honestly, Kate, I'm never going to laugh at people for asking these questions because there's so much disinformation going on. So much disinformation. So let's take Venezuela. Venezuela is a phenomenal example of what we're talking about, right? So the UN has published a report on this. In fact, there's a reason why Venezuela has kind of fallen out of favor, that the ruling class doesn't use Venezuela as the example. For a long period of time, they were saying, look at Venezuela as an example of why socialism fails. Well, the UN goes into Venezuela and literally walks out of there saying, the reason why Venezuela is suffering is because of the U.S. sanctions. That the U.S. sanction regime has actually crushed Venezuela's economy. That, yes, they experienced an economic dip because of the dip of oil prices, and much of their economy is tied to oil. They have the largest oil reserve on the planet, right? And it's good oil too. It's not like tar sands oil. It's literally like straw in the ground, suck it out. And Hugo Chavez nationalized the oil industry in the like 70s and early 80s, and used them to like build and use the money he got to build hospitals, really improve Venezuela in serious ways, like dramatic improvements under Hugo Chavez. And then Maduro, his right-hand man, has sort of taken his place. And everybody criticizes Maduro for being like, oh, he's so much more dictatorship, and like, oh, he's doing such like yeah, dude, he's being invaded by Americans. Like, straight up. Like, there's shit that happened in Venezuela that people do not know. Hugo Chavez was kidnapped by the CIA at one point, right? Like, that's on the profile for Hugo Chavez. It's outright known information, common knowledge. Hugo Chavez was kidnapped by the CIA, right? And the reason why they released him is because the Chavistas surrounded the halls of power and basically said, like, give us Chavez back or you're all dead, right? And so from that point forward, yeah, they've been pretty heavy on the militarism. Yeah, like, you're going to kidnap and try to assassinate our leadership. And this, there's a lot of speculation surrounding Hugo Chavez's death that it was actually an assassination, right? Oh yeah, I understand, Kate. There's a lot to know. There's a lot to know. Okay, so I'm up here. I just blasted you with information. I'm gonna put it in very simple terms then, Kate. Like, really, like, anybody can understand it, okay? So, Venezuela was making a lot of money from oil. Oil prices dropped for various reasons, and you can speculate on a lot of it. Oil prices dropped, and so Venezuela went into a period of sort of economic downturn, right? A little bit like the country being like, oh, okay, things not so good. And then the United States came along with a big boot in terms of sanctions and just went and has never lifted the boot. Right? So then to turn around and say, look at Venezuela as an example of why socialism fails is disingenuous at best. Like, it's the hey DJ, how you doing? I think a better question for me would be more that big government equals more control and corruption, but that's not a truism, right? Like, big government equals more control and corruption. Like, if the system is designed to be corrupt, it will be corrupt. And why is more control necessarily bad? Like, this is something I'm beginning to really see more and more, right? Even leftist commentators will be like, authoritarian, and more when I hear this phrase, authoritarian, right? I'm like, you mean they have rules and they follow those rules? That's bad? Like, you should have rules and then follow those rules, and those rules should apply to everybody, right? And the American system was designed to be corrupt, right? Like, read the Constitution. James Madison outright said that the purpose of the Constitution was to keep wealth within the, to keep power within the wealth of the nation. Like, well, and Kate, this is a great question to ask, because the reason Xi Jinping was elected to be the leader of China, he ran on an anti-corruption platform. He ran on an anti-corruption platform because he knew, and the Communist Party generally knew, that what collapsed the Soviet Union was corruption. That once Stalin, who proved to be incorruptible, died, that the people who were left, Khrushchev and Gorbachev and all these guys, were just weak-willed opportunists who were easily corruptible, right? And led Russia away from communism into neoliberal capitalism to the detriment of the society, right? Which is observable. You can see that. And Putin is an interesting figure because he sort of straddles the line. Like Russia hasn't abandoned its citizens the way that we abandon our citizens. So there's still a lot of state power and state control utilized for that. But but at the same time, he maintains a lot of personal businesses to increase his own personal profile and his own personal wealth. Yeah, Yeltsin and his right-wing coup, yeah, all that shit. Well, and for God's sake, like, we don't report in the West at all that there was, like, literally, like, armed insurrections in the streets as this was going on. As they were selling out the Russians to neoliberal capitalists, like, people were revolting. There were tanks in the streets shooting at government buildings and shit. Like, it was like, the period through the 90s in Russia was a big fucking time for them. It was a huge fucking time of upheaval that we in the West just, like, don't talk about. Like, we literally are just like, communism failed, and, like, there's no conversation about corruption whatsoever. And so the Chinese system, on the other hand, so because they elected Xi on an anti-corruption platform, and the reason why they elected him is because they believed him, right? That Xi Jinping's ascension through the ranks of the Communist Party was, like, straight up a decades-long ascension. Like, again, it's not like how it is here in the West, where, like, I have a bunch of money, right? I have a bunch of money. I'm just going to run a campaign, right? I'm just an oil tycoon living in Texas. I'm going to be the governor, right? Like, it's not like that. To ascend the ranks through the Chinese system, they start you small, right? You literally go to, like, an academy of governing, and you learn how to govern. And sure, should such a system become corrupted, it could become really vicious. But boy, howdy, what a tough system to corrupt. Like, it'd be very difficult to corrupt this system. Like, and Xi Jinping is so serious about his anti-corruption that he's even gone after his own people, like people within his own faction. His own right-hand man he had investigated for corruption because of his connections to Jack Ma, the billionaire, right? Like, yeah, and that's true, though, Kate. You're right about that. Every government system is different. It isn't black and white, which is why it's important to actually do an analysis and to actually know what it is, right? Because quite often people just dismiss things because they're not our way. And I'm just like, that's not good. Like, that's not good to think about things. And I love tuning in here sometimes, getting the respect and respect the info, getting off soon. Well, thanks for coming in, Kate. I don't mind the questions at all. It's a good test for me, and it's a good it's good to keep us all honest and understand one another. And I really don't like it when I tune into commentators and they start mocking people in the chat. Like, I'll mock the Shapiro bros, but, like, you just seem like an honest person who's trying to understand the world better, and that's respectable. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, show some news clips. The shelling of the White Building, the storming of the Russian White House. Saw it live on CNN. Yeah, like, I would show it, but I'm almost done, so I'm tired. 92% of all political races in the USA are won by the candidate who has more money for that campaign. Exactly, damn boxes. But John, that's not fighting corruption. That's a purge. So. The Soviets did, like, this is the thing that's so hilarious about what's called the Great Purge in Russia, or as we like to call it here, the Great Terror, right? Like, the Soviets had done purges since the beginning of the communist movement, like, literally, and almost on a yearly basis. They would sometimes go longer, and one of the things that set off the Great Purge in Russia is the assassination of a high-level figure. Kirov, I think his name was. I forget offhand, but he, like, literally, like, the leader of a faction in the Communist Party gets assassinated. Like, yeah, we're gonna investigate that. And, like, when they investigated it, it turned into, like, this huge, like, years-long uncovering of a massive internal conspiracy that went down to, like, the roots of the Communist Party and included many of the founders of the Communist Party. Like, it was an enormous event in Russian history. Like, and all of the evidence shows that the Soviets were right, that it wasn't like this, oh, you're my political adversaries, I'm gonna get you just because you're starting to be my adversaries and all that kind of stuff. It's like, literally, like, no, bro, like, they assassinated a dude. We're gonna figure out who did that, and we're gonna get to the bottom of it, and they did. Great purge. But, like, and, like, these purges, like, in the Soviet Union, like, the Communist Party, like, they would purge, like, there was one, they would purge, like, 20,000 members. Like, we're not talking about, like, 5 guys. We're talking about literally, like, hey, let's ask everybody what they think about the Communist Party, what they think about the future of Russia, all this kind of stuff. Oh, these guys sound like they're kind of pro-capitalist. Purged. Like, thousands of people just get the fuck out of the Communist Party. You're not part of this anymore. And, like, I don't know. Seems fucking reasonable to me. Hey, do you like Nazis? Yeah, I like Nazis. Okay, you can't be the leader of a country. Get the fuck out. Seems pretty fucking basic. Like, we purge parties. Like, we do it. Right? We just get really, like, selective with it. We just get really, like, when the conservatives fucking oust Derek Sloan, what's that? That's a fucking purge. Like, no Nazis, please. Thanks. Bye. Oh, I wanted to bring this up. So I haven't started the read, but there is a book written, a play rather, and my background is theater, so it's called 8 Men Speak. It is a play in 6 acts that, as you can see, huge play, so probably needs some edits, but in any case, it was created in the 1930s, telling the story of when the Canadian government rounded up 8 major leaders of the Communist Party and threw them in prison here in Canada. Tim Buck, you can just do a Google search on Tim Buck. Tim Buck, right, was the leader of the Communist Party. Literally the Canadian government, the Prime Minister of Canada, grabs these guys, throws them in prison for fucking nothing. So all of this, like, Stalin went after political adversaries. Yeah, like Canada did for sure. And this play, 8 Men Speak, it was staged once. It was staged once, and then a director in Winnipeg, a communist director, wanted to stage it again, and the government disallowed it. Like, anybody who wants to tell me about, like, Soviet corruption, anybody who wants to tell me about, the communists are the ones that are quelling political support and all this kind of stuff, get absolutely fucked. Get absolutely fucked for life. Like, my favorite thing to say to these fucking clueless capitalists who are like, oh, you want to... you're a commie, so you want authoritarianism, all this. I like literally just say Google Tim Buck. Like, get totally fucked. And for those of you who disparage, and not for you guys are cool, but like for anybody who disparages the power of the arts, this play is why they released those men. It was staged one time. And it got those men released because it was that powerful. So, long-term objective for me, I want to stage this again. I think this needs to be staged again. I would like to do it. Unfortunately, it is absolutely huge. It is an enormous play. Like, it's an enormous fucking play. Like 386 pages. It's a play in 6 acts. Like, that's fucking huge. That's huge. That's too many. That's too many acts. That's too many acts. Probably could cut it down. Probably could cut that down. But like, break it down, do parts. I almost guarantee that there's shit in there that you'll be able to take out. Like, oftentimes you find with larger things like this that there are entire plot lines like that are like C lines that you can just like get rid of. You know, you can just extract them completely. They don't really matter. Like, chances are really, really good that this play was written with the understanding that it wasn't going to be mounted very often. And they just wanted it to be thorough. They just wanted it to be thorough. That's all. And like, if you're for a modern staging, I'd probably just follow Tim Buck, right? Like he's the guy. And but yeah, like this idea that like, and like the McCarthy period, for Christ's sakes, like, oh, it's the communists that are the real problem. Like, what the fuck? Like, what are you even talking about? Like, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Yeah, capitalists claim ownership of land and call it private property. The state protects this property with violence. Capitalists pay us a fraction of our labor output to work for them on this property under the threat of homelessness and hunger. School and media tells this. This is freedom. Yeah. Another great one from the Hampton Institute. Another great one from the Hampton Institute, man. Gonna miss them when the internet is privatized, man. I tell you what. I tell you what. Yeah, Eight Men Speak. A Canadian play written in 1933 by a committee of Oscar Ryan, E. Cecil Smith, Frank Love, and Mildred Goldberg. Yeah, these guys were doing it for completionist's sake, for sure. Its suppression became a political embarrassment for Prime Minister R.B. Bennett. The publicity helped cause the release of the 8 imprisoned Communist Party leaders of the play's title. Yeah. The Agriprop tells the story of the imprisonment of Tim Buck and 7 other Communist Party leaders. This is what I'm talking about. Like, they probably told, like 8 stories. It's like, how about one? I haven't had the opportunity to really go through it. Oh yeah, Falun Gong, gotta point out, the crazy kooky cult. I think these are all old articles now. Yeah, we're getting into the old stuff now. Alright. Alright. We're at 9 o'clock. I know I cut an hour out of this, but too bad. Too bad. I am a sleepy bunny. I'm gonna make myself some food. Oh yeah, it's gonna be nice. Oh yeah, it's gonna be nice. Always remember, guys, and I mean this deeply to the bottom of my heart every single time I say it, you are a quantum being living in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars to make sure that you don't realize it. Don't let them. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.